Hi everybody, I'm Amuna Sayed, your science teacher. I hope you all are fine and you're having very good time at your home. This is your science book, Science 1, and I'm going to present lesson number 1 of week 4. So welcome to the week 4 of online session. So this is unit 2, senses and sense organs, and the topics under discussion are senses and stimuli. Here you can see the 5 senses. These are the learning objectives, and in this lesson we will learn about the general and special senses, stimuli and receptors. So as you all are well familiar that our senses makes us aware of the changes in our surroundings and even in our own bodies. We have a number of kinds of sense cells. That sense cells are basically receptors, and each is sensitive to a particular kind of stimulus. And we will discuss everything in ahead as well. But a stimulus is a change in the light, temperature, pressure, etc. It produces a reaction in a plant or animals as well, and some of our receptors are scattered throughout the skin, and some are deep inside the body, while others are concentrated into special sense organs such as eye and ear. So let's have a look. Here is a warm-up activity. So can you tell me why do we need our senses? Well, let's see the answer. Yes, we need our senses to touch, taste, smell, hear, and see. So that's why we need these senses. Now the question is, what are senses? So humans have 5 basic senses: touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. And the sensory organs associated with each sense send information to the brain to help us to understand and perceive the world around us. So that's how senses are helpful. Senses are basically the physical processes that are receiving the stimuli, and then they transduce and conduct an impulse that has to be interpreted by the brain. We can divide the senses into general senses and special senses. If we talk about the general senses, so these are the receptors that are widely spread throughout the body. It includes skin, various organs, and joints. Here you can see the skin receptor. Whereas the special receptors are confined to the structures in the head, that is eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. So these are the special type of receptors that are present over these areas. So do you know that the sense organs that we have and our senses that we are seeing, we are feeling, tasting, touching, and hearing, we are using at least one of our 5 senses every moment of every day. And they are on duty even when you are asleep. So your senses, they are actually working together in a specialized way, and they are letting your brain work anything that is going around you. So in this way your organs have been performing a specialized functions and making it possible for us to experience our environment and to make that experience more pleasant. Here are receptors. Receptors are basically, you can say these are the sensory receptors, and they are specialized cells. It can be multicellular structures. They are there to collect the information from the environment. And they stimulate the neurons, and when the neurons has been stimulated, they will send impulses along sensory fibers to the brain. So if we talk about sensation, it's basically a feeling that occurs when brain becomes aware of sensory impulse. Like in this case of tickling, the brain will receive a sensory impulse that your body has been touched gently with a feather. Okay, and same is the case is here. So there is a massager. So it's basically a physical feeling or perception resulting from something that happens to or comes into a contact with the body, and our brain respond accordingly. What do you mean by perception? Now here's a question. What do you mean by perception? So you can say that perception is basically an individual's interpretation of a sensation, and a person's view of the stimulus, like what you have just feel about the stimulus. So perception is basically the interpretation of that sensation, the way the brain interprets the information you are receiving. It's called perception. How does stimuli reach the brain? So this is how all the process is going on. So first of all, we'll discuss about the stimuli. Stimuli is plural of stimulus. It can be a condition, um, it can be an external condition or internal environment that is being detected by our brain. So stimuli from the environment are transformed into neural signals, and these neural signals are then interpreted by the brain, and this whole process is called transduction. Transduction can be linked to a bridge, like they are connecting sensation to perception. So once the brain is receiving message, then finally the brain will respond to that particular situation, and perception is the raw pattern of neural activity, which is called a proximal stimulus. As I have just told you, that perception is basically an individual's interpretation of a sensation. So the brain will receive a message that what he just sends, or the final you can say the final product of this whole reaction is basically called perception, and as a result the brain will respond accordingly. Here you can see how the stimulus response pathway. So as we have already discussed about the stimulus, that stimulus is basically a change in the environment that is either external or internal, that is detected by the receptors. So here you can see the stimulus is a glass full of water, and the receptors in the eye receptors is being interpreting or being detecting the outside stimulus, that is a glass full of water. Then what happened, this information that is detected by the receptors, they will transform the stimuli into nerve impulse, and that are transmitted to the brain. And finally brain, the decision making conscious thought will start in action, and they will start deciding now what to do. And receptors that transform the stimuli into the nuclear impulse, and they that are transmitted to the brain when decision where decision making are started, and when the response is selected, that what we are going that what the brain is going to do, then the signal is transmitted via neurons to the effectors. And finally, the effectors will start promoting a change in the organisms. And here you can see the response is now he is going to have some water. So this is how the stimulus response pathway works. It goes same with all situations, in the case of pain, in the case of heat receptors, light receptors, or whatever, but stimulus response pathway goes this way. So if we feel a pain, such as the pain receptors that is present on our fingers, so such as whenever we touch a hot stove, or the sensory receptors in our skin, they start sending message via nerve fibers to the spinal cord and brainstem, and as a result, the brain where the sensation of pain is registered, they will start processing the information, and they will start making a decision, and ultimately when they receive a pain, when they perceive this pain sensation, they will start responding accordingly and gives an involuntary action, that will be a reflex action. We will when we will feel pain due to high temperature or due to heat. So this is your brain on pain, like. That's right. So the presence or occurrence of unconditioned stimulus may leads to an unconditioned response, and this may go vice versa with the conditioned stimulus as well. So whenever we have a stimulus, we will give a response. And in case of an unconditioned stimulus, we will give unconditioned response. And in case of conditioned stimulus, we will give a conditioned response. But it can sometimes go irreversible, like in case of unconditioned stimulus or a conditioned stimulus, they can go like this. They can be irreversible. Okay, so this is how the classical conditioning is working. So here is the assignment. You need to read the unit 2, page number 14, and this is the basic introduction of today's lesson, sense and sense organs. So you will learn and write question answers given in the slide number 7, 11, 13, and 14, and
Please.
then this there is a wrap-up slide. We have discussed about the five senses. They can be general and special. Then we have discussed this how our body got receptors and that sense the stimuli and finally send message to the brain. And the response of the body depends upon the stimuli. Okay? I hope you understand today's lesson. It was not difficult at all. It was quite easy. So I hope you understand it and you get all the points. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.